Hello, everyone. We're live, and this is the first keynote of Wakelet Community Week 2025. So, thank you so much for joining us. I can see people already in the comments waiting to get ready for this session. This will be a pretty jam-packed session, I can imagine. It's all around AI. Well, two great things: AI and creativity. And we have two amazing speakers that you'll recognise from many keynotes and being all over social too. So we'll get going in just a few seconds. Get everyone ready and raring to go. Before we get started, of course, everyone will be asking for certificate links and resources. Don't worry, we'll share all of that in the comments as we go along, and we'll share a certificate link towards the end of the session too. The best thing is, with this certificate link, when you fill it out, you're going to be in with a chance of winning some amazing prizes. So I won't reveal that just yet until you know who the speakers are, but I'll share that later on. And any questions you have that you want to ask the speakers, I can help with, please do use that chat box as well. And every time you comment, every time you post on social, anything you find interesting, please do share it, because you will be entered into the Wakelet Community Week prize draw. You can win some coffee gift cards, Amazon gift cards, Wakelet subscriptions, and also some robot prize too. We have some Wakelet socks with a robot on, and also some Wakelet robot plushies too. So yeah, like I said, any comment, any post, please do let us know. And as I'm just looking through the comments, I can see people are joining from all over the world. We've got Colombia in the house, we've got Romania, Croatia, Karen there from Scotland, Yolanda from Bahamas, Vitaly from Ukraine. So many people joining from all over the world. So thank you so much for making Community Week one of the best events of the year, and just so global as well. So let's get started. We have two amazing speakers. You probably recognize them from many things. We absolutely love the two that are on in a second. They are keynoters, they are authors of some pretty amazing books. And the recent one is all around AI and creativity. And I think sometimes these topics, AI and creativity, can almost kind of clash heads. I think with the two speakers we have, they're ambassadors of edtech tools. They know every single edtech tool inside out. And they're going to show you today just how you can use all of them to marry the two, AI with creativity, because it is possible. So without further ado, I would like to invite to the stage Joe and Kristen Merrill, the Merrills.
Hey, James, Hi. How's it going?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us again on Wakelet Community Week. As I mentioned there, such a great topic. I know you're going to go into a bit more detail about it, but I just want to say from everyone here at Wakelet, thank you again for joining us for another great session.
Well, you know, James, this is like one of our most favorite times of the year, because Wakelet Community Week is so epic. Like,
okay, I couldn't tell if you're being sarcastic or not due to the actual timing of the year and when it is. It's like the craziest time of the year. But I have been writing down all of the places where everyone came from. So now I know you're being like, you know.
It's just wild that there's such a huge global audience that's here for Wakelet, and for an app to bring everybody together like that is just so super cool. So thank you for providing that opportunity for all of us to come together and to learn from each other.
I had to shout out to Diane too. I've been watching Diane. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like Poland, Croatia, the Bahamas, Serbia. Like, I do this just because I told our children before we got on, I was like, we're gonna go to this like global event, and I got like the eye roll, like, okay, and I was like, no, I'm gonna write down all the places that people were tuning in from, because I love it. It was like the coolest way to connect.
Yeah, and it's such an unusual opportunity that we don't usually get to do, because, you know, time zones and all that other thing. So it's just really cool for us to be able to have this opportunity. So James, we're forever grateful. Thank you.
Italy,
no, of course. Yeah, thank you so much.
That was such a nice introduction. That was very kind of you. Those are very kind things to say. But
I don't know if we're masters of all the tools.
Yeah, I don't know. And for everyone tuning in too, like, we're also just, I don't say just, because just means like it's not as good. Like, we're also teachers. So we really do enjoy connecting with you because of all those other great things and accomplishments that we do have. It ultimately is all stemmed from being in the classroom, right? And getting to actually use the tools with the kids.
Yeah, so we're just getting ready to go back into school next week.
That's why
she was laughing before. So maybe you're already back at school. Maybe you've been back. Regardless, you're gonna be able to walk away from the session, hopefully with a bunch of ideas to use. Yeah. So all right, we ready? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yes, amazing.
Might be a little bit different of a keynote than what you're used to. Yes, we're going to share with you all about AI and creativity, but we're also going to hopefully send you away with a lot of lesson ideas or ways that you can incorporate Wakelet into your classroom, which would be a little bit more. It's not just like talking like a keynote. Hopefully you're going to at least take something or remix something that we said. We're also, James is going to help us too, but we're going to be trying to watch the chat. And so if you ask questions throughout the keynote, we might be able to kind of slide them in as we talk. And if not, we'll answer questions at the end.
Yeah, and I would say this is more of a different style and different pace than the keynote that you probably would be used to, because we're teachers and we are getting ready to go back to school. The last thing we want to do is have somebody sit up in front of a room and talk to us for an hour that maybe like would be boring, right? So we're going to fire off a whole bunch of different ideas that you'll be able to use and you'll be able to find relevant.
Something.
Yeah. So, but before we can get to all of those things, let's talk about what this means today. So when we think about creation and creativity in a world of AI, it's completely changed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday. I think we would probably, our new coin term is that creation's the new currency. This idea that I think people automatically think AI is, right? Like AI is new. And I was just listening to a news article today on a podcast about how I don't think we've really figured out where AI is going to fit in our world yet as teachers. We know it's not going away, but where do we want it and how do we want to use it? But something that's definitely not going away and has never gone away is creativity. And so how can we either be how can we be creatively using the AI? How can we be creative amidst the AI? I think these are the things that as teachers, we're kind of swirling around right now.
So where do we begin with that? And I think it all starts right here. We have to start to rethink our lessons as educators. And so that doesn't mean that we need to lose all those lessons that we've taught for years and years and years, but today's learner learns differently. And so we have to try to rethink how we can deliver our content in a way that's going to resonate with them.
And let's be real, our expectations as teachers are changing, and we are in a profession that's, I almost feel like, designed to be overwhelming. Like it's just like, if you go back to, if you're a teacher and you're already back to school or going to in-services, I almost feel like they're like always going to be overstimulating, overwhelming, because the profession we live in is just kind of designed that way now, unfortunately. And so it could be like redesigning what platforms you're using. It could be you got a new curriculum. It could be new state, legislation. But ultimately, we cannot use exactly the same things we've been using over and over again. And so as we started thinking about Wakelet, that's something that's kind of beautiful about Wakelet, because Wakelet hasn't changed a ton. Like it's really core what it's always meant to be. And there are a few updates that we were reading about today, but it doesn't change. And so in this world that's changing, how can we use a platform and that we feel that's familiar and that we know, and that's going to be like that stable space?
And I think it's important to highlight, because you had mentioned it, at its core, Wakelet does what it does very, very well. And it doesn't just have to stay within the classroom. This is not a tool that was designed to stay just in the classroom. This is something that you can use with a much broader audience. And so we're going to be highlighting all of that. But how does that look like? Or I should say, what does that look like? So how can we go about rethinking our lessons? And you had mentioned it before, but AI is here to stay. It's not going away, and students are using it. So we've got to make sure that we're teaching them responsibly how they can go about using these tools in a creative way too.
And that's why we like Wakelet, because Wakelet can be a teacher platform and you can use it as a teacher, but it also can be student facing. And so when we're using platforms, we want platforms that students are able to engage with and manipulate and create, and sometimes even dictate and control the way they're used. And so to us, when a student is able to be creative in something, it's going to enhance their learning, right? That's the whole premise of our first book, The Interactive Class, right? When there's that interactive relationship and a student feels excited and feels like what they're doing matters, then they're going to work for you, and they're going to work for you much harder than they might work for you before, because there's an investment there, like an invisible investment. And so I feel like in the last maybe 10 or 15 years, maybe like when we were in school was very much like consuming things, right? Facts and writing essays and doing all these things. And some of those skills are still very much needed, but how can we shift it so our kids are using these new technologies, using these new efficiencies to still do those same things, but to be creators of what they're, and to demonstrate an understanding? I think that's really good, because it's going to build confidence.
Right. And, I think when students put themselves as innovators and as problem solvers, then they develop this deeper understanding of the content. So it's really important that we're providing that opportunity. And really at the forefront of it all, the classroom is a launch pad for all of that. And so with today's students, they don't want to wait until someday they want to actually make the impact now. And so we want to be able to empower them to do so. And by doing so, we are providing these creative outlets for them.
And there's a lot of research that goes into the idea of like real world learning and what does that look like. And I think sometimes we think, and this is true, this can be true, like, oh, I need to learn about, I don't know, marine science and go learn how to, check the salinity of water because like that's a real world way to use math. And that's great. But a lot of these soft skills that kids are doing through these platforms, whether it's actually on a technology platform or like just within the group work they're doing, these are all soft skills that also become those real world lessons and those applicable skills. And sometimes they're a little hidden or they're not as flashy as like, a language system or, an AI platform.
So what we thought we would do is we would run you some different examples through just using Wakelet. So maybe if you're just using Wakelet, then you're going to be able to see some of the ideas that you can use right now. And then we'll get into a little bit of more of level up activities. So let's start off with very simply hyperlinking.
So these are features. So these are like different features or things that Wakelet allows you to do that you can then create lessons or create experiences just from those things.
So one of the reasons why we love the hyperlinking in Wakelet is that if you toggle back and forth between the editing and the viewing, the URL never changes. And so you never have to worry about kids going on and if you, like, let's say you drop that hyperlink into your LMS, your Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, whatever. You don't have to worry about replacing that link over and over again because it doesn't change.
And the reason you might have to replace it is because you could be like me and you make a mistake or forget something or I need to add something. I do that all the time. I change things at the last minute. And if I've already linked my lessons for the week or the day, I don't want to go back and relink something because I've changed it. You don't have to worry about that. So I think there's that level of perfectionism or having to be so planned ahead. It takes that out of it.
Yeah, and so this just creates a really easy opportunity to get your content out to the students, and then it's kind of off your hands. You don't have to worry about it again.
Or you could get it out to parents or other ways. And so one way that you could take advantage of a hyperlink would be how?
You can use newsletters, right? So with newsletters in Wakelet, you can just drop your content right into the feed. And the best part about this is that it can all be translated using Microsoft's Immersive Reader. And so if you do share that newsletter out with families who are speaking a different language than what you posted it in, they'll be able to then have that translated into their native language.
Yeah. So for instance, if for me, I might make like a magnet or send out some type of QR code or something relating to that link when I first meet parents. And then I can keep going to that link and updating my newsletters. Now I can choose to have a whole really long running one if I want and have those little breaks in between, or I can change the content out each week and whatever they look at will be the most updated and relatable. But I think giving parents something that doesn't change, that they know they can always go to, is really helpful. It's also really helpful when you have like kids in different homes and you need to communicate with multiple people at the same time. You can even put it like in your email signature, or you could put it somewhere else that would be, accessible. But Immersive Reader is kind of what gets me on this one, because I can make my newsletter in lots of different places and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're teaching in a population where you need to communicate out to a lot of different languages, Immersive Reader is going to pick up all of that work for you, right? And so it's going to make it much more efficient. It might not look, dare I say, as graphically beautiful as maybe a different platform. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, you could make it because you could put all the stuff in.
Well, if they get our template, it will.
I was going to say you could, but it doesn't have to be. But at the same time, I think that's part of our world too. What's the purpose of this? The purpose is to communicate with people, right? To have that interactive relationship. And so being able to translate something, I don't have the time in my day to go through and translate over and over and over. Or what if I've had times I've had 4 or 5 languages in the same classroom, right? So it's not even like, oh, I teach in a primarily, English-based or Spanish-based classroom. What about that 1 or 2 kids that come in, like their parents can't speak any English? And I can't imagine how it'd be to not be able to communicate with my kid's teacher. And so I just think that's such an easy way to bridge a language barrier.
And, Immersive Reader is such a powerful feature. I saw someone talking about that in the chat. And it doesn't just have to be for the parents.
No.
Microsoft's Immersive Reader is built into Wakelet for a reason. It's there for everyone. And so even if you're a child, a student who's getting into Wakelet collection and you want to use that feature, you'll be able to do so. And that really makes differentiation stand out with Wakelet. And so one of the things I want to point out is how if we combine these two things we just talked about, the hyperlinking and with the immersive reader, you are going to be able to differentiate your content out. And so you can then take different links, you can share them with the students, right? You can then duplicate those collections, edit the content out, and then reshare that collection. So now you've got differentiated content for different groups. Or the kids can go on and they can use Microsoft Immersive Reader. There's lots of ways that they can differentiate. And I think that the beauty of it all is that it's really easy to use.
I think you can also just differentiate like you have here on this example, like just using columns, right? So maybe you're going to do some type of project and you differentiate how the students are going to interact with it based on the column, right? So if you're just like a quick start, you just need to like read some facts or watch some videos, you're not as familiar with something, you might start there. Or maybe you want to dig deeper and you want to like talk to someone and you want to like you can differentiate that how they're interacting with the content more so than like the level of the content, right? And so you could still have all the students working at that higher level, but the way they kind of jump in, and maybe you got someone who like really already knows a lot about this topic, and they just want to jump in and create and demonstrate their learning. I have students like that sometimes that sadly have to sit through the whole week's worth of lessons because that's just how we've planned it. And so something just as simple as like what you put in your columns, and you don't even have to tell them. You don't even have to tell them. You can just be like, hey, here's where we're going. Jump in wherever you want, go back as needed. It's such a seamless, I don't want to say trickery, but way to kind of differentiate that I don't know if I've ever really thought through.
And, you know, I want to highlight a few things here so we don't just glaze over them. But if you pay attention when the video rolls around the first time, in the header image, there's a little red circle that I put at the bottom. I do that with all of my differentiated groups, depending on like whatever groups they are. In this case, it was just the red group, so there was the red circle. But just adding that little small image on top of the header not only helps you when you're looking in your Wakelet collections and you're organizing them, but it also makes sure that the kids are in the right collection at the right time. Another tip there is when you're using your sections is to use emojis, especially if you're working with little kids. That helps to make sure that the kids are looking in the right spot. So you can say, oh, go to quick start. And if you're working with kindergartners, they're like, I don't know what that means. Okay, look for the finger that's going to the right. And so that way they are able to find that content quickly and easy. So we'll go over some of those ideas that you see sprinkling in there in a little bit, but I just want to give you an idea of what the possibilities of differentiation were. But, you know, it doesn't just have to be the student to student there. You can also have an entire class Wakelet. And this is more of a collaborative space. And I really like this because this offers a space for everyone to feel comfortable and to feel welcome, and they're all adding ideas.
I like this because I teach language arts. I don't know if we really formally introduced ourselves at the beginning. I'm a middle school language arts teacher, and so I do a lot of novel studies with my kids. And I really enjoy being able to like start a column and then like go through and keep collecting artifacts or discussions or, you know, putting creative work up there. And at the end of a novel unit, having like almost like an artifact or a journal of what we've done. I oftentimes will share it out with parents in my newsletters, you know, when we're finished or as we go through it and just be like, hey, look what we've been doing so far. Like, here are the discussions we've been having around, you know, the book Midsummer Night's Dream, or here's like the things, this creative essays your students wrote, or, and so I really enjoy doing like a whole unit or novel study on there.
And, you know, this could also be used to share out with parents too, right? This is the safe space. So that way parents can see what's going on in the classroom. This is a great opportunity to use some of those new Wakelet features that were just announced. For example, the colored cards. Pretty soon you're going to be able to do colored cards within your posts. And so if you want to change the colors, maybe for different columns, maybe you want to add a carousel image, so a couple different images, that's a good place to start with some of those new features.
Odd one out. You could be like, which one's like the odd one out, which one doesn't work. I like the color posts, and I think I saw something about pinning.
Yes.
So you could, like, if you were a teacher and you wanted to start the question, you could put the question out, pin it, and make it a different color so the kids know to look. Or like I do that like for directions, maybe. Yeah. You put the directions of what they're doing in each column in case they need that reinforcement. But then you could color code it so they always know, like, okay, Mrs. Merrill's, you know, directions are always in green and they're pinned at the top. So a lot of those features I think are going to help, especially when you do a big collaborative space.
Right. And so it does, we've shown you a lot of examples with using columns, but it doesn't have to just be columns. You can actually use lots of different types of organizational features in Wakelet. And so one of our favorites are the mood boards. And I figure it's just like the standard.
The image board. Yeah. So I just was looking through when we were talking about the stability of Wakelet, and I was like, man, there are so many different ways that you can put things in. And so I was like, okay, like what might be neat for like an image board? How could I use this in a way that might make sense. And we thought like, okay, well, character journal is kind of cool because you can like shelf and put entries below one another. And I always just think it's important to be able to see writing like together, all together. I don't know. I find like this is such an easy, quick way to do that. Plus, like you can link off of all of these, and so they're easy to share and manipulate around.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I think that's actually the next thing that we have on here is so nested collections, right? And so you can add Wakelet collections within Wakelet collections by using just simply hyperlinks. And so that's one of our favorite ways to do breakout rooms. We've done that many, many of times. So it's just a hyperlink collection within a collection. And the best part about it is you can go and you can edit it after the fact. And so the link doesn't change.
Yeah, and the link doesn't change. So your students could also be working. And then like a couple days later, you could go in and drop in that next one and like nest it in. So like appears at the time when you feel like your students are ready for it. So it's not necessarily like hidden, but it's also something that you can adjust and edit as you go.
And again, this is obviously another more of a collaborative space idea, but we love this idea because it also shouts out our media friends. So if you're in the library and you have a book that you've been reading, you want to make sure that you have a space for your students to be inspired to find their next book. Here's a great way to do that. Drop it into a Wakelet collection, have the cover of the books just right there, and then your kids can go on and they can say, oh, I haven't heard of that book before. I'd love to read that book.
Yeah, I've seen these cute like little signs that sometimes teachers will put in their books that says like, you know, I read this book. I think you'd like it because blank. And so how much easier to, not easier, but more efficient or more collaborative could it be if you maybe put in like a QR code or something that students could scan and see all the people who've read a specific book and why they liked it? Or you could even like go even further and be like, if you liked this book, scan for this. I just think it's neat for students to not only like give their opinion on something, but also to be in a space where lots of people are. And I also think it's healthy for people to say why they didn't like the book, right? Like it could just be a running conversation on the book. It doesn't necessarily have to just be, you know, one way.
Right. And so, you know, these are all super creative ideas that you can use with just using Wakelet. But what about using some of those new AI features? And so here you can use AI within Wakelet and you can generate images. Now, if anybody thinks they can guess what the book is here, drop it into the chat because that James, I'm not sure, but that might be a great giveaway there if anybody can guess the title of this book. But anyways, so in this particular example, students are using the elements that they've learned and they've read in the book, and they're dropping images into the different sections based on the setting, the characters, the plot, and the theme. And what they're doing is they're then offering what they think are reflections of what they learned about. And so in this book, a lot of these are AI generated images, but I'm looking to see if I see anybody. Nobody's guessed yet. So any guess?
I was going to say Paddington.
It's not Paddington. You're close though. Try again.
Okay, give me a minute. But as I'm thinking, I also want to share. I think this would also be cool for students to create them, right? So like could students create a board or group create a board on something and maybe like, you know, bear with me. Sorry, I live in the US, but like if you're doing like Civil War and maybe they each pick a specific time period or event of the Civil War after you've learned about it. And they have to create different people, problems, places, whatever. And then they all put theirs in a collection and then the class can go through and see. But I think what's most important is that the students come back, then they actually tell you, right? They go back in and then they say, okay, let me explain to you why I put in these pictures. Why did I put in these pictures? What did these represent? Right? So you could do it both ways, like at the beginning and have kids guess. Corduroy.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one.
So,
Shane Train.
Shane Train, you got it. Great, congratulations.
Yeah. So I think that's really important when you're talking. I also think it's really cool to use AI images. It could be like vocabulary development, right? So you could be doing, I've done this with my students, where I'll say, okay, our vocabulary words are these, and I need you to create some type of image that demonstrates or represents the meaning of that word, and then underneath explain to me why. So one, it gives them that itch of being able to start creating with AI. I think teaching our students how to use AI is going to be where our conversation is going to shift in the next couple of years, because it's not going away. So we got to teach them how to do it well and responsibly and safely. And AI generated imaging is a pretty, in my opinion, I like it. It's a safe space to start with my kids. And so something like that with vocabulary or create a book cover, there's so many different ways you can change it. But it's a great way, and kids really like it. It's very engaging.
And it's powerful, like you said, because there's always the student voice side of it too. So the kids are always having to go back and then explain why they selected that image, because I might select an image that's different from the image that you selected. That doesn't mean that we're wrong. We just have to be able to explain to each other why we did that. So it also brings out that student voice part. Which
I think this would be really cool too if you do like book groups in your class, and like each group is doing a different book, like in book clubs, and then they all come back and kind of share out, because those are some of your big heavy hitting targets in reading.
Yeah.
All in one.
So speaking of hitting targets, you can also make sure that you embed your content right into places like Canvas, for example, right? If you are a Canvas user, the thing we love about using with Wakelet is that you can take that collection and you can embed it right within the platform. And so that way it's less clicks for your students. It gets them to the content faster. And so that they're not looking around and trying to figure out where they're supposed to be. It gets them right on and gets them focused.
Yeah, like we didn't really talk about it too much here because Wakelet checks all the boxes. But when we look for apps or tools that we're going to use with our students, there's always like a checklist. And accessibility, Microsoft Immersive Reader is one of them. And then for me, it's like an embed code. Can I take what I'm doing in this platform and can I just as easily share it within another platform, like I can take things in and bring them into this platform? And so Wakelet does that really well. And so Wakelet is a great hub, I would say, that you can streamline so much from Wakelet.
Right. So a lot of the time, you think about all the things you can put in Wakelet, but you can also take Wakelet and put it into other things. And so there's lots of opportunities to use it both ways. And so we spent a lot of time looking into what apps we can actually do that with. And so these are some of the apps that we've been able to do it with. And the possibilities are really endless. I mean, of course, I'm sure there's apps that we've missed that are not on there.
Yeah, we tend to go with the ones we use a lot. So like if you're one of those people that are like, what are your top favorite apps? Like a lot of them are on the screen. So I just think it's important. I think, and it's also okay to not, like, it's okay to just use Wakelet, right? Like just use Wakelet. But if you're a little bit more maybe tech savvy, or you are more comfortable branching out, sometimes I think we forget, like, oh, I could do that. And look at how many, the opportunities and the fun ways that it releases for me to be able to.
And it doesn't have to just stop where you're looking at, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can also bring things into Wakelet.
I think this is more what people probably use Wakelet for. Yeah, at least I do.
A lot of times people think about just bringing the things into Wakelet. And so obviously there's way more apps than we put on here, but again, this is kind of the ones that we've used the most to do this. But what makes this so special is its flexibility, right? It's able to go either way, so you can get really creative, no pun intended, with how you're using the platform. And so even though we are stuck in this world of AI,
you made that sound so bad. Stuck in this world of AI.
Even though we're here in this world of AI, we're still able to think creatively and to get creative with the way that we're designing our lessons, the way we're designing our content, and the way that we're using these platforms. And Wakelet just does a great job of bringing those all together.
And we really appreciate the fact that Wakelet allows these types of apps to work friendly with it, because one of our big pushes is that when students do work digitally, if people can't see the work, if people can't reflect on the work, if students can't share it, there's no purpose in it. And so students are going to stop doing the work for you pretty quickly, because they're going to realize, like, no one's going to see this, like, it's not going to matter. And Wakelet being able to house those projects is important, because a lot of those places where those projects are created don't have a housing platform for people to see it, which I still think is kind of funny in today's age. So we're going to go through now some apps that we have used Wakelet with, and you may see some of them Wakelet may house the final projects or be part of that lesson, or vice versa, as we go through.
So buckle up, because we're going to go through them.
No, we're going to be nice. We're going to take our time. He just likes to rapid fire through.
All right, so let's first start off with Wayground and Wakelet. Wayground used to be called Quizzes. So if you missed that announcement over the summer, they have a brand new name. It's a brand new platform because it does way more than quizzes. But what's beautiful about this is that you can use it with Wakelet together. So for example, you can actually do this a couple different ways. In the example, I took a Wakelet collection that kids had been working on, and I then took that hyperlink and dropped it into Wayground. And I told Wayground to make an assessment about what the kids had added to the collection. It then took the kids' content, which then made them the creators of the content. And then it had the assessment side of it, because I was able to see if they were truly understanding what they had added to that collection.
I love it. I just like, I was a little distracted because I was watching your video and then I saw all the images pop up and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so messy. Look at all those thumbnails. But I love the ability to take anything that students have already done and create it into something else. One, isn't that what we always learn? Like create your assessment, end goal. What is the things you've talked about? And how many times do teachers, and I understand why it happens this way, but do we create our assessment before we've ever even taught the unit? And there's sometimes things that come up that you weren't planning on, or maybe you didn't get to something, and then you get to that assessment and you're like, oh no, like those questions aren't going to match. Like this is such a cool way to be able to take what you've actually learned and filtered throughout the lesson and then create an assessment on it. And the kids are going to probably do really well on it because they're going to totally see like they're learning in that assessment.
And some of them are going to be like, I came up with that question, right? Or I came up with that answer. This was really easy to do. All I did was I saved the Wakelet collection as a PDF, and then I uploaded that into Wayground. Took a couple of minutes, and then it was good to go. So super easy to use and a way to really elevate the critical thinking and take it to the next level. So speaking of that, though, you can also just have some fun as a teacher, right? Classroom screen. We love classroom screen. We're always using that at the front of our rooms to make sure that our kids are focused. They know how much time is left, so on and so forth. So you can embed Wakelet collections.
Telling you, it's that embed code, right? And so I like classroom screen, honestly, because it's so quick and easy for me to pull up every day, but it's also interactive with my interactive board. And anything with an embed code, I admit I'm guilty of it. I forget that allows it to be so much more accessible. So not that I can't pull up a tab on Wakelet and pull up my classroom screen and whatever, but I really try often to make my classroom screens ahead of time if I can. So remember that whole like links don't change, things like I can embed this on my classroom screen. And even if I go and change it, or it's going to be ready the next day with what the students have and it's there ready to see.
Yeah, and so it really just does offer you as the educator a whole different possibility to be prepared for your day, right? So having a collection right onto your classroom screen, so it's there, it's ready to go, and then you're not having to fumble around and get it while the kids are waiting for you. And so it just really expedites the process and the learning that goes behind it. So we also love the app Snorkel. If you haven't heard of Snorkel, definitely check that app out. But what this allows you to do, it allows you to take a Wakelet collection. It allows you to then drop it into the directions in a Snorkel assignment, which will create a hyperlink. So that way, when your kids go onto that Snorkel assignment, they can then access that Wakelet collection, and then they can go back and then respond on Snorkel.
So I think I'm going to give you a 30-second lowdown on what Snorkel is, because then you can see how powerful this really is. So basically what Snorkel allows you to do is ask your students questions. They have this infinite screen. You can choose whether they respond in a video, whether they write, whether they draw, all of that kind of stuff. And it uses AI to give them like generative feedback on their thinking, which is super, super cool. And it allows the teacher to see it kind of in real time. And the students can even see each other's. But what's so neat about it is that Snorkel plays nicely with other apps like Wakelet. And so it allows you to say, hey, we've been learning about all of this stuff in Wakelet and doing all of this stuff. Go look at it. Go read this. Go work on this. Whatever you have set up. And then come back here, share your thinking, and I'm going to evaluate you, right? And so oftentimes you put your kids in a platform, but they don't have access to some of the other things, and it becomes really cumbersome to get to it. And so this is a really neat way to take what you're already doing in Wakelet and then add in maybe that more evaluative or that creative kind of aspect to it.
And I forgot to mention, Snorkel is a free tool. And so there's a free and there's a paid version, but what you're seeing here is all part of the free version. And so you'd be able to do this today, going on and signing up for an account and then just dropping in that information into your prompts. And so it's really easy to set up those assignments. The AI does a fabulous job of checking the work and offering feedback. Snorkel does allow for multiple attempts. So if they want to go back and maybe edit it after they receive that feedback, it'll help coach them to get to what the educator would be considered as the academic standard. And so it does a great job of doing that. All right, let's move on. So the next one we want to share with you guys is Adobe Podcasting. Now, this is another free tool. If you have Adobe for Education, this is going to be for free. If you don't have it, just Google Adobe for Education, get yourself an account, and then you have it. But what's cool about this is that you can use Adobe Podcasting to create podcasts. You can then download those or share those and drop them into Wakelet.
And this, to me, is like, this is on my personal list of like, I really want to try this with my middle schoolers this year, especially as a writing teacher, because I think students don't realize how much writing and editing and public speaking goes into podcasting. So if you can kind of like trick them into that. But what a cool way to then be able to actually listen to each other's podcasts. And if someone's listening to your podcast and then they really like your podcast, and they're like, yo, George, like, when's your next episode coming out? Then there's that engagement, there's that authenticity to keep writing and to keep working. And so it's a tool that I definitely need to check out. It feels very professional. There's editing and there's a lot of things embedded inside of it that make it more than just recording a video. Takes out sound. And then to me, the Wakelet part, though, is where it's all at. Like, there's so many ways you could do this. You could do this around science topics. You could do it at world events. You could do it like passion projects where the students are making podcasts based on their own individual passions. I'm kind of thinking of doing it like a novel based, maybe like by different characters' point of views, or having students pick a different like perspective or different thing they want to do and have them write as we're doing. I don't even know, because the possibilities are endless, but you could share this out with the school. This could be in the media center. You could share it with parents. I just think it'd be really, really cool and a neat way to just give students that voice and really make both of these platforms very, student facing.
All right, let me blow your mind for a second, because there's a few different ways that you can do this. You can take your podcasts and download them right into the Wakelet collection, or as in the video you were seeing, you can actually take a collaborative link where you could have multiple people then log on to that link and work on the podcast. So Wakelet then acts as if it's sharing, so that way they can connect the different people together. Or it could be something where it's a template, right? You saw in the video that this was a podcast template that they've used. And so they've shared that into Wakelet. And then they've also used the AI built into Wakelet to either create a podcast image, or maybe they've used Canva or Adobe Express to do that too. So
you could like build, write, collaborate all of the podcasts on Wakelet and then share it.
Exactly.
And even embed them in Wakelet. Yep. Got it. Whew.
So, but the fun doesn't just stop there. We also
what if you're a gamer?
We also love GimKit. Yeah, maybe you're a gamer. Maybe you have a podcast about video games. Who knows? But what we love about this is that, when you use GimKit Creative, which is a paid feature.
It is. We will say. It's one of the ones we do pay for.
It is definitely worth it, because what it allows students to do, it allows them to create their own video games on GimKit. But that's great. But if they don't have a place to share that, it kind of defeats the purpose of it, right? And so Wakelet then offers that solution. You can have your students on creating GimKit games, and then they can share those URLs onto Wakelet and invite their friends to play, and then they can all enjoy their games together.
Like an arcade.
Yeah.
Like a virtual arcade. And you could do this with all sorts of things. You could do this with code.org. You could do this with Minecraft Make Code. Like, there's all different platforms that you could do. But again, things that tend to stay in a space can now be brought out.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of fun, very, very basic use of Wakelet here, but it does do a really great job of connecting the classroom. How many of you guys are Genially fans? You guys love Genially?
I just love the interactiveness to it, and we live in a very digital, like, media-based world, and if you think that you're going to get people to respond to things that are static still, I don't think you are. And so when we're trying to get parents and people, families, teachers, to pay attention to things, students, I just love the interactiveness of it, and it's super easy to use. And there's so many different ways you can create game boards, and this is a really basic use of it.
Well, I wouldn't say it's basic, though, because if you're paying attention to the video, you can see that it's a smart embed, right?
It is
and
smart
so
embed.
It's not just adding an image, a static image of what is being shared. It's actually taking that content and it's putting it into the Wakelet collection, so it's interactive within the actual Wakelet collection itself. And so what you've basically done is you've now created that one space for students to go to and have access to many different experiences all within one space.
The active embeds got my brain thinking too. If you were like a younger teacher, like teaching phonics or something, you could have like little videos of like how sounds are made or and like that live embed. You could just like roll them all in one place.
Yeah, Genially, it does have free and paid options. So everything you're seeing is for free. I will say the gamification in Genially is probably better than most of the other platforms.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good. So if you're looking for like a class breakout or some type of, back to school activity.
Yeah, we created math games and stuff like Battleship and put them on Wakelet and allowed the kids. What a great play to do like math review, or if you're like a coach where you have to create different activities spanning grade levels, you could create all these different math games. And maybe you've got a really high third grader who goes to play this game, but maybe more of a struggling fourth grader, they can play the same game all in the same place.
So All of those tools are more of external tools that you can bring into Wakelet, but let's also focus on some of the tools that are already within
Because Wakelet plays nice, and look at all these built-in integrations.
Yeah, there's built-in integrations. Now, 2 of those are going to be more obvious than 1, so we'll talk about that. But we're going to focus on Book Creator because that's the one that's a little bit less obvious because it's not right there at your face.
Start there.
Yeah. And so with Book Creator, what it allows you to do, it allows you to then take images and share them on a Wakelet. But before you can do that, let's talk about how we get to that point. So when I first used this idea, I had my students going on and researching, and then what they would do is they would find those topics that they found interesting, maybe pictures, and they would then share them onto a shared Wakelet board, collection, I should say, because what this does is this allows them to have one space where they can all view each other's work, and it does help kind of differentiate, because if you're a student who maybe is feeling overwhelmed by a project like that, you are then able to be supported by your classmates.
I mean, how many people need examples of what they need to do before they start? I do. I'm very indecisive. And this could be like as primary as like text features for little kids. It could be as advanced as a high school, laureate kind of research paper, right? Where you're working on something over time.
Yeah. And so all of this information, what it does is it then gets used to then create the book. So the kids are using those facts, then they're designing their books. And once they have their books ready to be published, they can publish their books and then they can share it on Wakelet. But the best part about it all is that when you do share your books on Wakelet, as you'll see on the left side of the screen there, they actually are a live embed book. So you can actually read the book right within Wakelet and you don't ever have to leave. I mean, you can click on it to make it full screen if you want, but you don't have to. It's just all right there for you.
It's like a digital live library. Like,
yeah,
think about all the stuff you could do with your class, like published authors, but it's all digitally live embed right there.
Yeah. So that one's a little bit less obvious because it's not necessarily right there at your face when you log in to add certain things, but it's definitely one that we want to highlight because the integration
works so well.
Is fantastic. This one, though, is a little bit more obvious. So this is how teachers can use the Canva integration within Wakelet. Now, it's a little bit different because teachers have abilities to go and change like the headers and stuff like that. And so we love to do that with all of our collections, mainly just because it helps our students know that they're in the right spot, because let's be real, they need that.
You're also a design snob, so you love to have things looking a specific way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Having students learn what something looks like or learning someone's space. And just, so this is kind of what he was leading to when he was like, you can make things look pretty. And it just opens up right in there. I mean, again, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to click any extra tabs. It's right there. Super efficient.
And what's great is that it just launches right out of the platform, drops it right back in. And so if you need to go back and need to edit for any reason, you can just click on it and then you'll have access to editing it. I don't know if we mentioned this, so I apologize, but Canva is free. You do have to be logged into Canva in order for the platform to come out. So you have to make sure that you are logged in before you click on that. Now,
some of them are just super easy, just like some of these ideas are from our books. Ways that you could create in Canva and then put on Wakelet. Canva bumper stickers, can use this for almost anything, but I will warn you, they're kind of hard. They're a very good way to assess students, especially because they need such few words. So if you've ever done 10-word summary or 5-word summary, a bumper sticker is pretty much the same thing, just got a little bit of a design to it. And they can design their bumper stickers and then they're dropped all right there together. So
it's a little bit different of a view than what the teachers see, but for the most part, it's the same. So you can kind of get that idea. But just like with Genially, Canva also is able to use smart embed. So if you go on and you want to use a design, let's say this mood board, right? We want to embed this. We can use that smart embed and we can drop that into Wakelet, and then it will actually be able to be interactive within itself as well. This doesn't work for just whiteboards. This will work for presentations as well. So a really great feature to add and make things interactive right within Wakelet, all with using Canva.
And then you can pin it to the top, and that's where students start. There's just so much to do.
Yeah, because then that way it doesn't bump down to the bottom.
So little time.
Yeah. We love our character storyboards, or character bulletin boards, I guess is what they're called.
Yeah.
And so what this does is it allows students to be able to use a couple different ways. You can have a template that they just download and then upload into Wakelet, or you could have them just open up Wakelet, launch the integration, and then design within the platform and drop that content right down into that collection. This idea is actually one of our newest books. So if you're interested in learning more about that activity, we'll share out our resources from our websites at the end. But you can also find this activity within our book too as well. Speaking of our book, we also have this idea, which is a great back to school
It's one
activity.
of my favorites.
Yeah, and so this one is with Adobe Express, which is another integration right within Adobe Express. So when you click that Adobe Express integration, you're actually launching it just like you did with Canva. You have the whole platform available to you now, and then you can go in and you can edit anything you would like. And so this particular example talks about a graffiti wall, which is like a back to school, get to know me
like a word splash. Have you ever done brain science kind of learning where students get to go in and create words around a certain topic? So at the beginning of the year, just do it who you are. Like, let them push all the buttons and design all the things and use all the colors. It's just a great get to know you kind of activity. But then after you've done that and they've pushed all the buttons, use it in content, right? So tell me everything. Today we're going to do a quick assessment in our unit in science. I want you to tell me everything you've learned this week. Go. And they can still have fun with the fonts and the colors, but it's a really great way as a teacher to easily see and assess what students are taking away from something in a pretty quick way. And to them, it's super engaging to build.
And again, this just drops that design right back into the collection. So that way they're able to then share it with the rest of the class. And so really cool feature there. All right. Brisk teaching is one that we are kind of new to the game with. We love what we've seen with brisk teaching. We're super excited about how we can use that with our students for this coming year. But so that got us thinking like, well, how can we use that? And so here was a perfect example. Brisk, what it is, it's a Chrome extension, but you don't just have to use Chrome. You can use it in Edge, but it's an extension that lives in your browser that then allows you to add presentations.
Basically take anything you're looking at and create something from it.
And it boosts an activity. Anything that you want to use that with that particular website that you're looking at, it'll then take an activity, which then allows you to do things like create a whole lesson or maybe a presentation out of, right? So for example, in the one that you're seeing here, the students collaborated on things they learned about the state of New York. So what they did was we then, as the educator, took that information, we created a presentation about that. And so again, having the students as the creators of the content and then leveling that up, so that way we could then have that forward facing as almost as assessment for us as educators, so we can see what that looks like. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Brisk. So also number talks. I love number talks.
Can't leave out math. I feel like math always gets left out in like technology stuff.
Yeah, and so in this particular example, this is one of my favorite ways to use Brisk. So I think you're going to really like this. So when the kids go through and they did number talks, they were trying to figure out different ways to make the number 22. They all collaborated. The rule was you could not post the same answer twice. If you saw an answer that you thought of, give it a like, and then just keep on breaking down the numbers. But then we took that collection and we added that to Brisk. And Brisk, then you're able to create a podcast. And
like a transcript.
No, it's not a transcript.
Well, yeah,
it's a podcast.
But it's a transcript of the podcast. It's like what they were to say.
You're going to see it, but you can listen to it.
That's a transcript.
So what you're going to do is you're going to have that podcast available, and then you play it back, and you have the kids listen to it. Because the best part about it is then they're listening for their equation, right? But they may see or hear that there were some mistakes, and they're actually going to talk through those mistakes on thinking about how can we go about fixing that. And so Brisk is a free tool. There's paid versions for Brisk, but this is all free. And so this is a great way to try that out.
It's also great. Like what if a kid was absent and you just did this whole lesson in Wakelet and then you put into Brisk and I've got this whole audible and readable transcript of what they learned about in math, like, whoop, and the kids made it all.
Yeah.
So cool.
And so let's take everything that we've talked about together and let's think of a level up idea. What if we did this? Are you ready for this?
You always overwhelm people with this, and I feel like they learn.
This is the grand finale. The grand finale. All right. What if we could have our students go on to SchoolAI, which
you haven't talked about.
We haven't talked about, but it's basically chat bots that students can go on and they can talk with that are safe. Educators manage manage it all. It's all monitored by the teacher. So what if students went on to the chatbot on SchoolAI, used that to talk, then they gathered their facts using a collaborative Wakelet board, and then you took that board and then you used it with Brisk to then level it up even more. So how does that look? Well, let's show you. So here you can see on number 1 here, there's that conversation. The kids were talking to an astronaut, Buzz Aldrin. Then in number 2, that's where they gathered all of those facts. Then in step number 3, you can take that Wakelet collection, add it into Brisk, or I should say open it up in Brisk, and then you can actually create a whole interactive activity. And the best part about this, though, is that this will actually take that Wakelet collection and embed it within Brisk. So the kids could still be interacting in the Wakelet collection while in Brisk.
And it's going to be evaluating and helping them redefine whatever the task is that you're working on. See, that's the biggest fact to me, is that we can put things in a Wakelet, but then having something being able to say, okay, but my goal for this Wakelet was the standard or this skill, and now being able to put it into Brisk, it's almost allowing them to kind of like evaluate and reflect, because let's be real, not every single thing that got posted might be usable or really on topic or on task, but allowing the students to find that out on their own and discover that on their own is where the real learning comes, right? Learning comes through that reflection and that redesign. And so I just think this is super powerful. And as you get used to the different skills, like if you're not using SchoolAI, then just do the Wakelet into Brisk, right? Do one of those different levels, but the evaluation that's possible is really powerful.
And I don't know if you saw it on number 2, but Wakelet acted as the hub there, right? So the SchoolAI chatbot was in that first column, and then we have all of the facts that are going to the second. There's even a collaborative space for images, and then of course that Brisk activity was the end. So it's also acting as the hub for it all as well. So we hope that you guys are now got your brains spinning and you got those
like busted.
Going. Yeah, not busted, but the main point we wanted to drive home was that Wakelet works well with so many different platforms, and it plays nicely with so many different apps that we wanted to make sure that you felt inspired to try out some of these different app smashes that we were sharing. And so if you have any questions about any of this stuff after the fact, maybe you're like, how did they do that? Or I want to try this app smash. Please, we want to hear from you. We love learning from other educators. We're at the Merrill's EDU, 2 R's and 2 L's, because
there's 2 of us.
She hates it when I do that. And so we're also at the Merrill's, or I should say at the Merrill's. Our website is themerrillsedu.com. And so you'll be able to then reach out to us and contact us directly through there. So either on social or on our website works for us. But we are looking forward very much to hearing what you guys all have. And we just want to thank you guys, because we know that it's a really busy time of the year and everybody's kind of scrambling, maybe here in the US at least, to go back to school. And so thank you for taking a part of your day out to spend with us. It means the world. So many great friends in the chat and learning from so many different people. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much. We probably should look to see if there's any questions. I think I saw one that was good. Let's see. Do students have to indicate when they use AI?
I think that's school-based, state-based. It all depends. A lot of districts will have waivers or things or certain platforms that you're allowed to use already indicating that it meets their AI policy. So I would definitely check with your admin on that question.
Yeah. The other one was, in an age of AI, in an age where AI can almost create anything, what's your secret to keeping your teaching human, creative, and unforgettable? I love that question.
Do you have an answer?
Honestly, I think that for me, it's really just creation at its core, right? And so leaving more flexibility for students to be creative or thinking with their talents then provides a much more reliable experience for the educator and for the students. And it does keep that human side to it. So that way they're still showing their creative side. AI can generate images, and it can do those kinds of things, but it still needs that human touch. Our friend Manuel Herrera says it best. He says that AI still needs a human touch. And so that's really important.
I think if you're trying to keep your teaching human, creative, and unforgettable, you got to create a space where students feel safe to do those types of things within there. I think you need to do it with them. I think the more you can create and design alongside your students, and they can see like your creation network, or they can see you in that revision process. I think creativity, so often people think they see these great creative works and they think that like the person's just perfect and they just automatically are gifted to create that. And they don't realize that pretty much in everything, there's so much failure or revision that comes before the final product is created. And also, this may be an unpopular opinion, but with my students, I tend to do a lot of it in my classroom. I tend to kind of like hone in and like bring in the barriers a little bit, in the sense of like, we're not working on that at home. We're not bringing that at home. So at first I can kind of monitor and make sure it's really is their own work. And then I feel like once students see that they can do it, they feel less of a reliance on the AI. They can use it as a tool, but they don't see it as like that scapegoat or that thing that's getting them out of the thing they're not good at. And so then you can kind of loosen the reins. But I tend to do that with my students a lot, as I tend to say, like, we're just doing this here. We're just writing here. We're just creating here, until they start to have that confidence built, I would say.
Yeah. Well, James, thank you so much for this opportunity. We've been so lucky to be with you guys. And so we're incredibly grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Joe, Kristen, that was absolutely incredible. I've been flashing a few of the comments on the screen there. I don't know if you know this, but I think this session meant a lot to people. I've just left that session up there from that comment from Renee. I mean, I'm not an educator, and I'm very excited by some of the apps and the app smashes you shared there, and the fact that people are going back to school, and some people are worried about AI, some people are excited about AI, some people are in between, and the fact that you've kind of brought through that creative element with AI, and Kristen, you touched on it quite a few times, that human piece with the reflection, whether it's through a podcast or having that content in Wakelet or peer assessing each other with the podcasting. I thought it was absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for sharing all those ideas.
You're so welcome. And, Renee, that means so much to us. It hits our heart because, we want you to be excited to go back to school. And more importantly, we want the kids to be excited to be back at school. And so it's really, it means a lot to us that, these ideas resonate with you and that
fills our cup too.
Yeah.
It's nice to get on and see what other people are doing and excited about. It reinforces that maybe we're on the right track, that sometimes the things that we're thinking, because, sometimes we hit those educators who don't see the same way as us, or administrators, or people who are scared, and you start to doubt, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing it this way, or maybe I'm on the wrong track. And so for us, it's nice to see everyone excited about the same things that excite us, because then we build our community that way, and we fill our cups, by the people we follow on social and that we get to interact with. So thank you to everyone who's here, in the best interest of your classrooms and your learners.
And definitely reach out to us because we want to learn from you as well. So thank you guys.
Amazing. Joe, Kristen, thank you so much again from myself, the team, and everyone in the comments, and everyone will be watching later. We appreciate you sharing all those ideas. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, James. We appreciate it.
Amazing. Cheers. Wow. I'll say it again. That was absolutely incredible. I know you guys really, really liked that session there. I mean, over 15 apps shared, app smashes, from podcasting to, the games design with Gimkit and Wakelet, I thought was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'm blown away, and I know the comments kind of share that as well. So thank you for joining us today for this first keynote with Joe and Kristen and Merrill. I have linked their website in the comments and their social handles. Please go and follow them. They are absolutely amazing people and amazing speakers, and you'll learn even more than they've shared today from following them further as well. And of course, their book is in the link as well in the comments to the Amazon. You do have the chance to win the book, by the way. So, of course, Shane Train won that little guess of which book it was. So, Shane, I'll be in touch with yourself. But there are 2 more books left up for grabs. So, in that certificate link, I've pinned it to the top of the YouTube comments. Go ahead and fill it out. You'll get your certificate for the session, and we will randomize that list and pick 2 winners to win the interactive class, Creation in the World of AI, from Joe and Kristen Merrill there. So, best of luck. But hey, if you don't win, you can always go and grab it on Amazon as well. I'm sure today was just a little glimpse of what you can expect to receive in that book. So please go fill out the certificate link. Best of luck with that. And of course, anything you've learned today, obviously, please share with your colleagues and friends, but please do share on your socials. Thanks for being so active in the comments as well. And head back to the Community Hub where the whole of Wakelet Community Week is taking place. So we have a great session coming up next. So you've got a 30-minute break. Go and take your time, put your feet up, take time out of the day to relax. And if you're available, join us next. We have Miru, a Wakelet ambassador, talking about enhancing SEL through digital platforms, and that'll be in 30 minutes time. So go ahead, take a break, and we'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.